Hello and welcome to the Realityworks webinar on increase student engagement while exploring agriculture career pathways. My name is Jamey McIntosh and I'm excited to be here with you today as we talk about career pathways and how to get really your engagement and your pathways set up in agriculture within your school and within your community. So before we get started, I just want a little housekeeping here. First things first, thank you for taking the time. This will be sent to you after we are done. We also have a place up in the corner of your viewing area there where you can push on the chat button as we go through. If you have questions, you can fill in the questions during the talk, and then at the end there will be a question and answer time, and I'll get to those as well. So we thank you for taking the time today. And again, this will be recorded, so you will get a certification of completion of this webinar and then also the viewing for it. Now, with that said, again, welcome to Increased Student Engagement while exploring agriculture career pathways. To get started with us today, I just want to talk a little bit about our agenda. We're going to talk just a little bit about who Realityworks is. We'll then go into building pathways in agriculture education, talk about how programs should be designed with the next generations, the students themselves in mind, and then the importance of agriculture education, and then curriculum paired with hands-on learning to really focus and get your pathways in the best order as you can. So, I'll give you a little introduction to Realityworks. Realityworks is a company that's been around for about 20 years. We are in about 62% of all school districts in the United States and about 90 countries worldwide. And we are an education partner. We partner with the Association for Career and Technical Education. We also do about 100 different trade shows a year in ag education. And we also are a proud member of the National Ag Educators Association. So we're involved with that as well. So we are very just involved within the world of agriculture and then just education in general. All of our educational products have some sort of component of hardware. They may have a software component. Some do, some don't. They are considered learning aids, and they all involve curriculum with them as well. So as you can see from this slide here, we hit really four main areas. We go from the family and consumer science world, health science, agriculture, which we're going to be talking about today, but we also have welding and trade skills. So those are kind of the four pathways that we are involved with here at Realityworks. So to get started with, I want to just talk about building pathways in agriculture education. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is just this idea of career clusters. As you probably are well aware, there are different career clusters that are involved, and what we're going to be talking today about is agriculture, food, and natural resources career cluster. Ag is really heavily involved here, and what we're really focusing on is getting your program, if you don't have one, starting a career cluster within that world, or if you do, how you can bolster it and make it stronger in what it is doing. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the idea of building your plan of study. So the first thing that you want to do is really look at, okay, what classes do you have? How are they connected into this world of the career cluster of agriculture, food, and natural resources? And then how am I going to be able to implement it into the school plan so students are taking classes and then being able to kind of have that career path as they go? So in this idea of build your plan of study, there is a great website, and it's at the bottom here. It's www.careertech.org, career clusters. And when I click on it, it actually comes up as this idea of career clusters, and it goes through all the different career clusters that are available in CTE today. The first one right at the top is agriculture, food, and natural resources. The nice thing about that is if I click on that, it brings me into just a focus on that world. And within here, it's the third bullet point down. It says the plan of study. Okay. The great piece here is within that plan of study, You can click on it, and there is a Excel spreadsheet there that allows you to manipulate and vary this as you see fit. In this case here, I have it as a PDF file, but you can also get it in the world of a Excel file, so then you can then manipulate and put in different features there. But the real main focus of this is it's how are you going to get your students into the classes that they need so they can have a pathway to the world of agriculture. And so in this case, it gives you a rundown of the different classes that you need to take if you want our core classes, and then how do you implement along with those classes the different CTE classes that are needed to include your plan of study. So in this case, you can go right into it, and in high school, you can talk about the different classes that you have. Maybe it's an introduction to agriculture, food, and natural resources class, and then what it actually does, and then what grades are they going to be using that. So it really is trying to get your students to go from, if they're in high school, from the freshman year to the sophomore year to the junior year to the senior year, a nice stepping stone of you start with this class, you then move to this one, you keep on moving down, and you get that nice kind of plan of succession or plan of study that one after year. And this goes for the post-secondary as well. If they're going to go outside of high school, once they're done with high school, then what are those classes that they should be looking or expecting to take if they want to continue on with that plan of study? So first things first, kind of if you're taking notes, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you are getting that plan of study. What are the classes that your students will have, and what will they be taking before you kind of get into this next area that we're talking about, which is the 6 key elements for developing career pathways. Now, once you kind of say, okay, here are the classes that I think I'm going to have, then you can kind of start planning out the school portion of that and kind of the scope and sequence of how the school will work. Now, the other way that you have to remember is one of the great things about career and technical education is just that, is it's getting students into the career world. What are careers available for students that are in your community? Because it is tied to your region, to your geography, and to your general area. So one of the things that you need to do is there's really kind of, there's 6 key elements that we're going to talk about. But before you even get to the 6 key elements, you really have to check and say, okay, do we have these available? A great example, I work with the state of Alaska, and in some areas, they want to do a certain type of career and technical education pathway, but their area doesn't support it. We have other areas in Texas, same kind of thing. Throughout the United States, there's different ones, so you have to know what your community is. If you want to do travel and hospitality, or tourism and hospitality, you have to make sure that are there jobs in your area to then have students be able to go that career pathway. If there aren't, that may not be the career pathway you want to include. Now, we're talking about agriculture. So if you are able to see, okay, yep, we have that as a career pathway that is going to be good for our students, then you start to do things like really identify, okay, and build cross-agency partnerships. You start going to different agencies. You start going to different community groups. And really, it should start with the blue here. Identify industry sector and engage employers. Really going out and saying, okay, you're part of the ag business world. You're part of agriculture. I need people to be involved or help me to know what are the things that I need to teach. What are the pieces that need to be taught? Then you go into that design and education training program. Okay, now we're going to be designing the classes and core features or tenets of that pathway. Once you're done there, the other real important one is this identify of the funding needs and also sources. What are the things that you need to have a successful program? What is it? And it's going to be most monetary. Money's going to get you those things. So what are those things that you need? And then what are the sources out there? Are there different businesses that can help me? Is my school going to give me money? Is there going to be grants that I need to work? Can Perkins help me? Are there programs out there that I can replicate, and what are those needs, but also what are those resources that I have as well. Once you get there, then you start to align your policies and your programs, looking at the different state standards, the national standards. Am I aligning the program or my programs with the different standards that are out there? And then you need to find a way to measure your system. Okay, how are you measuring performance? How are you measuring? Is it just by number of students? Usually you can't just use number of students. You have to include other benchmarks, but how do you measure your system for success? And then also, as much as success is important, what can you find to see, there's some problems here and how do we fix those? So having measurements so you know what's working well, and then when something's not, how can you fix them? And that then leads to the very top one, to build the cross-agency partnerships. As you work with companies, as you work with the school, as you work in your community, how are there cross-agency partnerships that you can work with and help out there? So again, some things to help you with that is the Common Career Technical Core Standards. These are standards that are in place. They have them for every different pathway, including agriculture. So this is important for you to be able to look at that, see what they are, what are the expectations for you within your pathway, and then get guidance from the educators. If you're a CT director, okay, what are they good at? What are the different classes they should be teaching? From the businesses, what is it? If you include classes that maybe you include dairy, some sort of a dairy class or a portion of that, if you are in an area that doesn't have dairy, that may not be the best place. Maybe you are more of a focus on beef. And so in that case, you need to make sure that you're aligning and getting the input from the businesses and the community and the industry around you to know, okay, what is it that I need to focus on here? And then feedback from the public, getting their feedback and finding out, okay, what are the skills that are needed all come into this world. That kind of brings us into this ability to then create your plan of study and then get your framework. Includes kind of that overall view of, okay, here is the career cluster I'm going after. It's agriculture, and this is what's important. Now, how am I going to be able to get those pathways there? What are some special areas that I want to have? So we have a lot of schools who, they have a freshman or sophomore introduction to agriculture. But then after they get done with that one, they go into more specific. So it's animal science and plant science. And then even more specific, maybe they drill into a very specific, and it's vet science or small animal breeds, or maybe it is just a large animal breeds, whatever it is. So it continues to get more specialized as the students get older, as they're in more high level classes, but it's a progression. So that framework is very important. Making sure that they know what they're doing and how they're doing it. Now, this is another one, is building an advisory council is very important. And it's something that can do a world of help for you as a school and as you're getting your pathway set up. If you invite 5 to 10 business professionals, industry professionals, one of the things that is very important to that is when you look at this, that we say 5 to 10 because you may not be able to have all of them come at one time, all there at the time. So what you need to do is invite maybe more, and if more come, that's great. You want to have participation in your advisory council from your community, from the different industry leaders in your area, but they may not all come. So have more out there, and when they can make it, they will, but you may not get them all at the same time. So you want to be able to engage them. You want to meet several times per year. And the purpose of this is, again, ask them, what are the things that are needed? What is the outcomes that you need? What does industry need? And then coming back to, how can we educate our students to get to those industry needs? Now, it's a two-way street there, because as you ask for those things, you also can be opening up and asking the employees, okay, what can not only we be doing, but how do we do that? So if there is needs for things like funding, you can ask your council, do you know ideas of how to get those things? Do you have people who can help us? There's a lot of times if you have different veterinary offices and businesses in your community, they may be able to come in and do some sort of trainings, or they may be able to put you in touch with different people to help with your teaching. So there's different options there for you to include in that partnership, allowing that connection, and then also making sure that you are having not only good pathways, but pathways that are leading to good career opportunities for you, for your students. Then you also need to check into industry recognized certifications. Now, this varies from state to state, and it also is important to look at the importance of industry recognized certifications, because some industry recognized certifications are, you have to have it to be able to get that job. There's others who it's a nice to have, but it may not for sure get you the job. And there are others where, it's great to have it, but you're going to have to show your skill level. You're going to have to show your training. You're going to have to do something on top of it to be able to show that you can do what you say you can do. So it's always important to really check and find out what those industry recognized certifications, and is it important for your students to get, depending on what type of jobs they're looking for. It may be more important than in other areas. And then can I, is this something where this is very specific in my own area, or can I go out to other areas to get that understanding? So that's kind of the beginning of things that you as a teacher, as your school, as a CT director really should be starting to think about, is how can I grab onto those different things to help create a career cluster and a career pathway for ag education. Now, one of the things then is, then you have to start looking at, okay, how are we going to design our programs for the students that we teach? And so what we're going to talk a little bit about now is programs designed with Generation Z in mind. So really talking about the next generation, all right? We have millennials. The next generation coming in is what we know as Generation Z. Now, Generation Z, who are these students? Who is that next generation? How are they learning? How are they really grasping? What are they looking for? Well, just to kind of give a little heads up, they're born between about 1995 to about 2010. They're very tech savvy. Their multitasking is something that they're very good at, or they think they're very good at. They also have about an 8-second attention span. So we are in now that technology age, that information age, where everything is being going so fast and moving so fast that it brings a lot of new opportunities, but it also brings about new issues and new ways that you have to look at how you teach. So the question is how do you teach students who have the same attention span as a goldfish? Right? What do we do in that case? How do we make sure that we are getting them what they need as they go into the career that they are now going to be going into, that they have bosses in other generation and they have different understandings than in that sense. So really, what is the focus here? Well, we're finding out more and more that it's all about experience. Students are reading less text than they ever have. And the future is really focused on, where am I going to use this in real life? What am I going to do with this? How do I know that this is important? Now, part of this comes from that same generation, because they view educators not so much as experts like we once did. They're now seeing them as facilitators or guides. If they don't feel like they agree or they understand, or their educator is giving them the whole truth, or they're confused about it, they can go online, they can go on YouTube and find videos. They can find the answer from multiple different sources, or even conflicting answers. And so they look at it as, okay, what is this way? Not so much as experts, but they look at educators now as, okay, how are you facilitating? How are you bringing this information to me so that I can then use it in my world? So what happens? One of the things we would say is that it's important to keep content small and be flexible, and also bring it in multiple different ways. It's one of those things that we really see it as continue those modules, if you want to say, of informed learning, and then including to give the question, okay, how are you going to use this? What is it they're going to use? And then allow them to try to work on that themselves. Because what we have found is that why is as important as the what. Evidence-based learning is very important, but the question here is not just what are we learning and what do I know, but why am I learning this? What's the importance behind it? How am I going to use it? And we've seen that in things not only with evidence-based learning, but also project-based learning. So the last thing then, one of the big stressors and one of the big issues with students of today is the soft skills. We hear it over and over again, is there's a need for things for students to understand soft skills. There's need for teaching soft skills in this world, because students have a lot of knowledge and a lot of skill, but can they actually get the job? Can they stay in that job? Do they have the soft skills to get them through the door and into that career? So want to then flip back here and talk for the last few minutes here about the importance of agriculture education. Agriculture is important because there is a global need for it. We see it all over the United States, all over the world. It was told to me at one time, everything that is in this world can be brought back and has some connection to agriculture. And I believe that's very true. So agriculture is not going away. It is something that is very vibrant and is coming back in different ways. We don't have as many family farms, but we do have bigger farms. We have the need for agriculture in multiple different ways. So it may look a little different, but it's definitely still a need in our environment. It's also the largest employer in the world. So students may not know that they're going in for agriculture, but their employers someday may be focused on agriculture in one way or another. And so it's something that they may not even, some students may not think at first, hey, yep, I want to be a farmer, but there's so many different variations besides that, that we really need to look at it as there's a connection in no matter what course or what path they may take. Farming in the United States is, again, alive and well. It's something that is needed more and more, and it's increasing in the sense of how much of a need it is, not only to the United States, but what we are then doing and giving to the rest of the world as well. So how do we work through all this? What we want to talk to you in the last few minutes here is about the pathway packages that we have. We believe that it's important to gather the resources, help you with the, get the plan of study connected with you, and then bring in that curriculum and hands-on learning aids so you have it as kind of a full package for you and your students. So we have created different packages here for you within ag education. So as you get your pathway put together, as you get your team of industry leaders and industry community members, as you get this kind of the plan of study of how you want your classes to work, now you need to fill those classes. And so what we have come before is we bring within the pathways that are already out there, things like power, structure, and technical systems, animal systems, and plant systems, we've brought products that fit right into that. It gives you classroom course content. Now, for the power, structure, and technical systems, up to 60 hours. For animal systems, up to 50 hours. And for plant systems, up to 20 hours of classroom content, along with hands-on resources, along with that curriculum, along with activities for your students to use. So in the sense of power and structure, we bring in different hands-on learning things like our GuideWeld VR welding simulator, our live welding simulator through GuideWeld Live, Weld Defects Kit, employability skills, and we bring those different products into your classroom so then you can then use those and your students can have hands-on learning while you are doing your and implementing your pathway. For plant systems, we have our flower model, our corn grain model, our STEM model, and then our plant science kit as well. So we have hands-on learning tools, we have curriculum that's wrapped around it, and so as you're in those classes, as you have that as a pathway, we give you a whole package all ready to go so you can bring it right in the classroom, have your students be learning and teaching. And then we also have our animal systems. We have our large animals in the sense of our cow model, our horse model, and our pig model. We also have different systems. So we focus just on digestive system, the ruminant system. We focus just on reproductive systems. We focus on small animals like cat and dog and companion care, and then also different skeletal models in this package. So we give you these different hands-on learning models, but then we also give you different curriculum for each one of those. So you know this different systems of them and you can have an understanding in that world. So again, what this is do for us, it gives you the ability to apply the content right into your plan of study. So if you have an animal science class, you now can bring that pathway package, the animal science pathway package, you purchase that, you put it right into that class, and then it fills out your plan of study. It shows that the number of hours that you're going to have in that pathway plan of study, what you're going to be using it for, and what it's going to, what age or grades you're going to have that in, and what you're going to do there. And then it gives you that information for you so you have that career pathway all set in place for your students to know what they're doing. So it brings that thing in the sense of, as you're talking about the plan of study, when you're talking about how the different classes, Introduction to Agriculture, Food and Science, you can put and use the different models, the cow, pig, chicken models in there. When we're doing Introduction to Animal Science, you can use them in that same class. To advance animal science, to any specialized area, you can use all of those different models for one class or for multiple classes, allowing you to use it for the needs that you have in your school. The other great piece here is we have employability skills. We have our employability skills kit that gives you workbooks, that gives you PowerPoints, gives you that ability to teach soft skills to the students. So they're not only just learning about that understanding of the exact skill, but they're also gaining skills of how to get that job, how to be employable, how to be a good worker within what they are working on. Now, with that said, we have about 4 more minutes. And if there are any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, this is something that we will put out on our website. And so you can get this webinar there. And you can also go to information@realityworks.com. If you have more questions on this, feel free to get in touch with us and we can help you walk through the pathways, how to bring your pathway into your classroom or schools, make it robust, how to be able to do those different things that you need to really flesh out and put in foundational structures and frame out your world of agriculture pathways. So hopefully this was helpful for you today. And if you need more information, feel free to give us a call or email us at information@realityworks.com. Thank you for your time.